Hello, Magnetic Muse. Welcome to today's episode. This is an episode exploring the woman who waits. Are you the woman who is waiting for him to choose you, for him to be ready, for him to commit? Why waiting for him to be ready can be repetition of actually something a little older and a little deeper. It can become repetition of waiting for love to arrive, which is an older wound. When does patience become self-abandonment? I'm your host, Jessica Ann, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sunshine.
Hey there. Um, I'm really kind of just excited about talking about this just because um this kind of mentality is kind of what pushed me into um I guess moving away from exclusive dating.
Mm.
Because then I'm not in a situation where I have to like really put myself in waiting for anyone just because I see potential or because I see this person growing at a certain pace, but maybe not as quickly as I would want them to move or whatever. So I just feel like um, moving away from being so quick to commit to exclusivity helped me to stop the waiting around for someone and cutting off all of my potential elsewhere just because someone wasn't where they wanted to be.
I want to ask you a question there. So
Yeah.
when you talk about um, cutting off exclusive dating, are you talking about rotational dating so that you're experiencing other people without sleeping with them, or are you talking about having sexual relationships with multiple men?
A little bit of both. So I have like partners, like one or two that I'm like intimate with, and these are the people. But then I have like an open opportunity for dating and new experiences.
So what would make you, because I'm not confused by what you're saying. I just wonder if it's another form of armor and a strategy to protect yourself from vulnerability. Um, Question. It's just an in
Of
question.
course.
Like, or is it just a worldview and a form of freedom? Um, so because if you're saying I'm going to have two partners here that I'm intimate with, at what stage do you decide? Do you decide that okay, I do want to be exclusive, or is it not going to come because are you still waiting for someone to choose you? Like, how is it all working for you? Give me the
So
psychology.
I've been married. I've been in monogamous relationships. I did not enjoy them.
Right.
I began to enjoy dating when that wasn't an aspect of it, and um, like really did a lot of mindset work and just evolution around the purpose of a relationship and what it means to be in partnership. And once the piece of me that I felt like I wanted to own somebody or have ownership over somebody was healed, exclusivity just wasn't as pertinent to me. And then I also like the idea and the experience of community in
Mm.
those types of relationships that I have or whatever, because I do have like, I mean, I wouldn't call them sister wives, but other women that I'm connected to that I'm in community with, and like we kind of look out for one another. It's very girls girl vibe.
Do you have a split definition in human design?
Yeah.
Oh.
Your 57 connects everything for me.
Right. Well, this is exactly what this is all about. Like, I'm single definition. I don't need all of this, like, extent. Like, you are actually at the leading edge and cutting edge of what the potential and possibility can be for relationships, for humanity, number one, and shaping that paradigm and that conversation. But equally for you, it's actually important for you to do that. Like, this is a need that's actually inherent in your human design. I don't have that need. Now, for me, when you said, oh, like when I gave up the need for possession and owning someone, that's when exclusivity didn't mean something to me. I don't see it like that. Like for me, exclusivity is nothing to do with possession and it's nothing to do with ownership for me. I'm definitely somebody who understands two independent and freedom is huge in my chart. Like I've never that's why I've had such freedom. I mean, yes, there was elements of father wounding, attachment, and all of those things and avoidance where I did, but not all of it was down to attachment and wounding, a lot of it was down to I do inherently desire freedom. But I also um I I just yeah, I personally don't see, for me, monogamy or exclusivity as a sign, as an unhealthy sign. I just see it as a choice, the same way like polygamy is a choice. Like it's just what you feel. But yeah, so for the women who are listening as well, like rotational dating is actually key to this conversation. So if you are a woman who hasn't experimented with your actual core needs, such as Sunshine has, and she's come to a conclusion within her heart and her spirit and her soul, and it's not about protection, she's not protecting herself from not being chosen, or she's actually saying, I love the freedom and the actual authenticity and conscious connection that I can build with different people who can serve different purposes in my life from a place of non-attachment and not from a spiritual bypassy way. I'm hearing and I sense your energy, you know, I can sense this is coming from a very wholesome, true place in your soul. But for women who are not quite there yet, and there's still some of them who are listening are going to be women who are coming out of a period of healing, um, because they keep repeating a pattern where they are choosing unavailable men or almost what we would call the almost relationship. And if you're that woman who notices that you're always waiting for a text or waiting for him to choose or waiting and feeling longing where it's not coming from a place of like what am I saying? A place of what? Like
Anticipation and excitement,
joy,
more of like desperation and
yeah, a frequency shift. So is it desperation, like waiting and longing, or is it like play and desire,
patient.
and passion and non because that's what it was with me in the Ghost of Lovers Past at the first, like the beginning, like that 10 year the first time because like I had no desire to be in like there was no attachment. It was free, it was fun, it was like ooh. But um so rotational dating is a technique and a strategy that is advised for you to move yourself out of the pattern of latching on and attaching very quickly, especially if you haven't healed your attachment style or wounds or have self-consciousness and self-awareness. You can begin to form fantasy bonds or latch into and put everything onto this man who's shown you. Remember that thing we spoke about last week about emotional starvation? He's shown you something, a bit of connection, a bit of affection, a bit of tentativeness, and your nervous system is latched on. And so you enter into the waiting, and he's not there. He's not bonding. He's not choosing. He's not wanting commitment. And instead of being able to open yourself up to what is aligned for you or healthy connection, you wait. Do you want to build on that? So, oh, sorry, rotational dating then is a strategy that is advised for women to actually go out, date, enjoy people, have connection, not keep like latching on and let people
Exactly. I think
they are. Yeah, go on.
this whole conversation around waiting for me is related to something we've talked about before, which is right sizing access, right? When someone exhibits, potential and you see an opportunity for, growth and, oh, the relationship is going in a positive direction. And I feel like, oh, there's this one thing that he needs to work on, or he needs, a better opportunity, or, just all the kind of excuses that we kind of make about like why someone isn't ready. He's going through a lot. We do that, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he just has so much stuff going on right now. When his life gets to a calmer place, or he's going through a certain type of healing, and well, once he gets to a certain level in his healing, he's going to show up in a different way. And like you said, it's just creating those fantasy futures, and it's like you're not really in love or attaching to who this person really is. You're attaching to your projection onto them.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
go ahead.
No, no, go on.
yeah, just having a level of conversation and strategy within yourself to say, if I find myself waiting for someone to become someone else or become a different version of themselves or show up different, and that waiting prevents me from having my needs met in this immediate moment, then here's an opportunity for me to make a shift in this relationship where I can honor the truth and the reality of where this person is and also have my needs met.
Yeah, and I love this. I feel really happy having this conversation today because it feels very light, actually, and it feels very light and a very big shift from where we've been in this heaviness and the murkiness of that frequency. I keep talking about frequency today, but there is a consciousness element of where you are when you're there in the mud, and where you are when you come out on the other side of like so this idea when you're like a man for me is showing you his willingness to his commitment to you based on his actions.
Yes.
And where I used to make the mistake, well, not used to, one person, like, let me get this straight, people. I was not this chick who was constantly making these mistakes. I'll be like, I wasn't. I got into one situation that showed me what needed to crack open to shift my life. But what I found in that particular situation was they showed me very clearly their capacity, who they were, what they wanted, what their level of commitment to me was through the actions that they took. And I bypassed my internal knowing, my needs and my wants because I wanted because I wanted the reality that was presented to me to be different. It was that thing of looking at potential. And that is where the father wound for me became apparent, where I integrated the fragmented self, the little girl who had shaped her whole reality around waiting for that unemotional man to come back. And once that had been integrated through my process, Shadow to Sovereign, um, I will not now, I won't, I'm not going to have standards that are low, like standards that bypass. So if a man says to me, I don't want to lose you, but he's not planning dates, he's not initiating, he's ringing me late at night, he's not showing an interest in my inner world. Like these, I will never again confuse that with connection, with love, or wait, he might be ready, he's just going through this thing. I'm going to take the data and I'm going to say, okay, cool, you know. But I don't even see myself attracting that because like now that I've healed that part of myself, I can't even imagine a man even stepping to me without coming correct. I can't.
Absolutely. What you were just saying, about basically how sometimes we create the illusion ourselves, and it's not anything that the other person is doing. It's just us. We have this thing that we want. We see that, oh, this person maybe could be that, and then we just create this whole thing in ourselves. But what I thought you were going to say is telling the difference between, making a distinction between judging the relationship and assessing the relationship off of actions, the actual data, the facts, and what this person is saying.
Yes.
Because, being able to recognize a gap between what the conversation is versus what the behavior is
Mm.
can be like a big, thing as well. I know specifically in my situation, like I kind of like, bought some wolf tickets of like, people saying, oh, well, I'll do this and we're going to have this kind of life and we'll do this. And, all of this, contributing to my fantasy that I already had. And like, the mistake of like telling a man everything that you want and then he can just kind of regurgitate that back to you in order to string you along for as long as possible, and like those type of habits or whatever. But it was something you said earlier that I wanted to circle back to about monogamy,
Mm.
and just a question for you, because a part of it for me is I think I got to a certain point where questioned whether monogamy was an illusion.
I've been asking that question since I was 10 years old. Like, honestly, I've been saying this since my argument has always been, which is, and I've said it, I was saying it to all of the men that I've ever been with. I said, I don't believe in monogamy. I don't believe it's a social, I believe it's not an innate human desire. It is a social contract. Why do I believe that? Because I have fucking desire outside of my relationship. So, like, and so do men, because if monogamy was a true innate human need, then we wouldn't have all of the cheating and all of the things, or all of the like you would be locked in, and that would be it. So, but I don't know. I believe in conscious partnership. I believe in, and I so for me, I don't even know if I would even want, like, what I even want now. It was I was like on my bed the other day going, after all of that, do I even want a divine union now? Or do I just want to go out and have fun? Like, so I don't know.
Or do you want both? But like I think that kind of where the questioning started for me. So there were a lot of questions that I had that I wouldn't allow myself to ask when I was deep in a religious state because I felt like I need to subscribe to these ideals in order to be holy and righteous and all of these things that I was believing and holding on to. So it was like once I released those beliefs, I was able to really question things that I had held on to and been taught. Because if we're looking at like from a biblical standpoint, the standard is you have sex with one person your whole life. That's what it actually says, as far as like what the rule is, and anything outside of that is a deviation from what's supposed to happen. And so that caused me to kind of like look around and be like, I don't know anybody who fits inside of that particular box. So on this spectrum, where does it fall where it's okay and it's not okay? It's like, oh, you're not supposed to have sex with, only that one person in your life. But if you have sex with 20 people and then you get married, now you're holy again. And it's just like, well, that doesn't make sense if we're, looking at this book as the judge of what it is that we're supposed to do. And so in that sense, I just kind of was like, I don't know that this ideal that I'm striving towards really exists.
See, I've never been, so I wasn't raised in a even though my mum actually is a priest in the Church of England, and but only came to that many years after I'd left home. I've never, I did, was raised in the Church of England, but I had no religious, like, no one forced anything onto me. Like, I was like, in fact, this idea of the Bible and monogamy, like, never even crossed my mind. Like, so it's not something, maybe it shaped me unconsciously, but no, for me, I saw very unhappy marriages. I was raised in a domestic violence situation with a man who was a sociopath. And so, and a woman who overfunctioned, and there was just violence and abuse. And so what shaped me was like, that doesn't seem like something I want. Like, so, and I didn't have any models of healthy marital, um, thing. So I think that more than anything shaped my aversion to marriage, because I had an aversion to marriage, and feeling and being suffocated and held down. Like, don't hold me down. I need freedom. Yeah. But that's a lot to do with my third line in human design as well. And my one line. I'm a very free person. I love intimacy. I love true, authentic, deep connections. And I think what happened for me in November 24, when I suddenly realized I wanted divine union, and it cracked me open to look, because actually there were lots of armor and there were lots of protections that I had been operating. Like, I'm not in connection. I haven't had I was celibate for like 5, 6 years. So that wasn't not like, suddenly I was awakened to my new level of, why are you not experiencing human connection, touch, love, devotion? And you can have devotion not in, I mean, I do actually have, I've had men and even women, not in a sexual way, but some, but like, who have devoted to, like, are devoted to me. But I just started to feel and create this story that I'd never been loved. And I want to experience that. I think I want to experience a conscious partnership where I'm building something meaningful with someone. And, that's what I want. So I don't know how that will unfold. Um, so, but yeah, let's go back to like the,
Yeah, but it connects back into it because a lot of times in the origins of this is you're waiting around for this person because you feel like, well, this is your opportunity to have this dream that we've been sold about monogamy and being in this fairy tale relationship and all of this fantasy and things that were created. And it's like when I look at the marriages, that I've been close enough to actually know anything about, like I don't know anyone who hasn't dealt with infidelity in their marriage, but then there's so much shame around it. I
Mm.
don't, know anyone who, just instantly met the person that they were supposed to be with, but there's shame around being single and not being married, and you can't keep a man, and like all of these things that we build around it that tend to contribute to our tendency to wait for one person to show up the way that we want them to.
I think there is the problem is as well is when I think the main problem, and I think I'm confused. I feel like I'm not attaching to what you're saying and I'm trying to make a connection. The problem with waiting for someone who's okay, for me, the issue is the psyche and the part of you that's waiting for someone who will not meet you. So the longing and the wanting from someone who is unable to meet you in that way, and rather than walking away and finding that mutuality and reciprocity and conscious partnership or conscious connection, you latch and wait and long for something, and that will teach you that is the wound that you're creating, that's the false self, that's the part of you that's how you'll know that you're creating from a part of you that is trying to resolve an illusionary pain, like like a part of you that has a subconscious belief that you're longing for love or waiting for love or whatever. Whereas when you integrate that and you're coming from more conscious choice and a true deep, and I think actually I wanted to come back to what you said as well, like we are the first generation, I believe, of women and men who actually don't have to marry for money, don't have to
Yeah, we
marry.
don't need
Yeah,
relationships to survive.
right. And I think that that is changing how we are approaching relationship, which is why I want reciprocity. I want polarity. I want these things weren't conversations 100 or 20, 30 years ago.
They want a provision.
Yeah, right. And so for me, monogamy or non-monogamy, it's like that's not I think the question I'm grappling with. What I'm grappling with at this stage of my evolution is reciprocity, mutuality. Maybe I haven't had a real level of mutuality or depth and devotion because I was very happy to just be surface, because my levels of intimacy was because that I didn't want to compromise my freedom before. Now I feel like I can open my heart and I can be more giving in a way that I've never been in my life to somebody else. Giving, um, yeah, that's where I'm at, I think. Whereas before I was like, no, I'm busy, I'm working, I'm free, I'm this, I'm traveling, I'm that. I didn't want that, whatever that is.
Absolutely. And I guess you said um that you didn't really like connect and like fully understand what I was explaining before. So I wanted to give like a real life example just in case there's someone else who
Oh, but I wasn't
feels
connected.
that way.
Go on. Yeah, go on. Build it. I want to hear.
Yeah, and so I think about, once I did get married, I realized very early on that what he thought was marriage and what I thought was marriage were two different things. And I was committed to basically saving him. And like, I'm going to get him involved in church and he's going to have this major transformation and he's going to become this, holy man. And we're going to, just have this beautiful union. And I mean, he started going to church and he did make a lot of changes. In hindsight, he pretended to make some of those changes. I just didn't know because I wanted to believe that he was changing. And so I didn't see all of the signs that would have told me, girl, when you're not around, he's still doing these same things. Because
What things was he doing, if we're allowed to say?
selling drugs, running women, doing drugs, like all of these things that had I just, not had this programming in my mind that was like, I need to believe that this man is changing so that I can stay committed to this relationship and I don't break up my marriage. Because at that time I was really religious, and it's like, you don't get divorced. Once you get married, like, that's it. A sanctified wife sanctifies her husband. And so if I'm being a good wife, he's just gonna evolve into, I needed to believe that. My relationship with God hinged on it. So I was willing to tolerate things that I shouldn't have tolerated and wait for him to make changes that he was never going to make, all around this societal religious expectation of me that I had, latched onto and allowed to kind of like rule the way that I navigated my life. Because from the time that I was 7, this is what I've been told that I need to be striving for, and what a good woman does, and what a godly woman does.
Right. Yeah. God. See, because like, thankfully for me, that wasn't. I haven't, like, I've always kind of been free to create my own, follow the beat of my own drama, I would say, actually. To an extent, apart from the external world that shaped my experience, but I was free to follow that. Like, my relationship with God, in fact, has never really existed. Like, until I had my awakening, it was the first time I actually was like, oh, maybe there is actually a creator or force and within myself and all of that. Because before I was just like, I was, yeah, my thinking was very intellectual, was very um connected to philosophy. I was much more shaped by white old men from Athens than I was uh, religious. I had existential questions that never was shaped by religion so much. Um, yeah, so this is actually a really cool conversation. I think it's different from what we were like planning, but really, really
I think
good.
still along those same lines, and then I did want to kind of like hit on like my own personal father wound as well.
Yeah.
Um, so from the time that I was born until I was about 7 years old, my father was in the military,
Right.
and he was gone on, assignment at least half of the year.
Mm,
So there was always an element of waiting for my father to come home and to have his physical presence in the home, and like there's this anticipation and just, an inconsistency in his presence. And it wasn't for, a negative reason or whatever. He was out making money. That was his job. But, my nervous system doesn't know that that's why the man in my life isn't, home, and I'm anticipating. And then when I was 7 years old, he had a shift in the way that he shows up. I mean, some people would call it like a major bipolar episode. Some people would call it a spiritual awakening. It just depends on the introduction to a dark night of a soul. Dark, yeah. So I but then from that point, I was like kind of waiting for the rest of his life for this old version of my father to come back, and hoping that, oh, like he's going to get to a certain level of healing and God is going to deliver him and he's going to, be back to the man that he was, that I remember sparsely from a child or whatever, right? So that patterned me to be in relationship with narcissists later on, who come and at first you're in that honeymoon phase and they show you one thing, and then you spend, the rest of the relationship yearning for that to come back.
I mean, as I listen to you talk, I definitely can see that the when I look back at all of the relationships that I've had and the patterns and the men, like they definitely have been shaped hugely by my relationship with the masculine, both the sociopath and my dad. I told you, A Tale of Two Men, both shaped my understanding of what was possible to be, what love meant, what intimacy meant, and what connection meant, and none of it ever really meant being chosen or cherished or loved or and devoted to, like provided for, because I didn't have that model. And so I'm definitely changing. I've changed over the last year, 18 months on what I'm open to and what I want. But I think it's like you with that process de of deconditioning from societal beliefs, religious beliefs. For me, I was deconditioning from my internal psyche and my relation, like from looking at the mirror and looking at the whole history of my connection with men, what and decoding from that. Wow, what are my actual what have I been believing? What have I been and then going through the process of saying, well, this is what I need and this is what I want. You're on mute. Um, so a lot of my shit was needing to prove, needing to earn love, needing to perform for love, not letting people see, not feeling safe to be seen, and so dismantling and releasing all of that so that I can actually have the kind of intimacy that I desire and connections that I desire, however they come to me. A lot more open, a lot more loving, like open heart, like truly open hearted. And yeah, when we when we have to when we wait for approval or for a man to show up or whatever it happens to be, as a child, and they don't, it kind of shapes who you are as a woman. And for me, that was the huntress, the wounded huntress, who I've spent 7 years dismantling, and now I would say in this 7 year cycle, I think is going to be the most beautiful 7 years of my actual whole life, because I I feel as though I am much more. I feel love is at the center, like true unconditionality, not like tolerating things, but there is a deep wholeness in me. Like I know who I am. I know what I want. I know what I won't tolerate. I know I'm discerning. I'm not going to tolerate that. Like I feel like I'm moving into a whole era of the sacred divine feminine. What's what I call the,
You listen to your body.
yeah. And yeah, and it's gonna be a beautiful time. A beautiful time.
Absolutely. And so I guess I just wanted to give like a couple um solutions for someone who might be in the situation where they're listening to this and they realize, oh my God, like I've been waiting for this person or this is my pattern. And just kind of ways that you can transition out of that. I did mention, taking away the element of exclusivity in certain relationships. If this person is not, if you're attached to this person's potential and not actually who they are, removing the element of exclusivity in the relationship can be helpful. Or just like, well, even if you maintain sexual exclusivity and just say, hey, let's open up the relationship. I want to be able to date and see other people. Like that change in access liberates you so that you can have your needs met, like just being willing to make a shift. And so but if that's not, you know the change that you want to make, there are other changes that you can make. It's just important that we're not waiting for a different version of someone to show up when we have no evidence that they're actually going to realize that potential, and having some type of strategy to shift the level of access that they have to you, even if it's you see this person daily right now and you have been, but you realize that the relationship is not meeting your needs and you want something, need something more than what's available to you, you can shift down the level of access to where you're not centering your life around this person and seeing them every day and put it down to once, twice a week. There are just ways that you can remove at the level of access that they have to you in order to free you up to invest your time into other interests and to developing yourself and your um, standards and ideals and getting more in touch with what your needs are and how you can have them met outside of your romantic relationship until you are able to either release the relationship that you're in or accept this person for who they are.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Either release the relationship or accept that person for who they are and get in touch with your own needs. Like you are always at the locus of choice. You always have a choice point every moment of the day to actually say, like, I don't need to stay in this circumstance or this situation. Like that's the bottom line. And I think people forget. Like if you're spending the majority of your life waiting for a text, looking at the last scene, looking at them online and waiting, you know that you know, and it doesn't feel good. You know that this is not an alignment for you. So it's about waking yourself up and saying, I need to tune into my needs and I need to make a decision about what I need, want, and desire and break out of the pattern. Because like and go and seek help. Go and seek if you can't break yourself out of the pattern and you're repeating this thing forever and ever. Um, there's all I want to leave you with is there's a big life out there, and you know it's a beautiful world, and you get to experience it. So choose life, choose joy and peace. Yeah, choose choose to actually awaken that there are boundless possibilities for you to have a beautiful experience on this planet and you don't need to stay in the same cycles and the same kind of men and the same kind of patterns that don't fulfill you. Ask yourself I think ask yourself, why do I believe this is what is possible for me? That's the question. If you're staying in something that doesn't feel good, why do I believe this is what it is? And
I
what do
think
I
that
actually want? Yeah, go.
no, I was just saying I think that's great advice. Something that you said reminded me of just like a real life scenario that I was in where I was like waiting for this person to send me text messages and like trying to figure out, in that avoidant, fearful runner chaser energy that I was in. And something that I did that was really helpful for me because this person was like ignoring my text messages but posting on social media is I removed all of our social media connections.
Yeah.
And like it's like, well, you don't have access to me in this arena anymore because you're not being responsible or considerate with the access. And then, eventually that relationship dissolves. But it's just like little things like that of like, how can I put myself in a position where I'm not constantly being triggered by this person or at the whim of whether or not they change.
But I also think this is where the growth lies, because this is where the mirror is showing you, where are my standards? Where, who am I? Because when you're, um, every moment of that happening in a relationship where there's no repair, there's no change in behavior, there's no it's not about particularly like somebody who is respectful and actually honors your heart and actually wants to build a conscious, intentional relationship with you is not going to keep repeating behaviors that are detrimental to you or showing you how low on the priority list you are or how lacking in interest they are about your connection. So it's not ever going to be about them unless you're having the ability to have that conversation with someone who gives a fuck. But if you are seeing that, it's down to you to say, I don't tolerate this, or this is not my standard, or this is where I don't show myself love. This is where I'm lacking love because I'm not setting a healthy boundary for what I accept and what I tolerate in my life. And that is really, I think, the beautiful thing about the relationship is it's always going to bring us back to what are my standards like. Where am I not leading from self-worth or self-love or yeah, like because the more that mirror helps you to refine who you are, the shinier and more sexier that mirror becomes. Because as I said, what comes to me now will never ever be at the level, like no man can come to me and not have plan a date, bring me flowers, invest his time and energy, show me he's thinking. But I can't. A man can't, because he's not gonna. I'm never gonna be operating at that frequency for someone to step to me, to sex me, and not and like without. No, it doesn't exist. Because and that can only come because that mirror shifted who I was. So don't look to change them. Change yourself. That's my content. That's my advice.
Absolutely. And I think that's also the distinction between a lot of the dating advice that's out there that feels like playing games and being manipulative and like how do you get a man to do this and all of those types of um suggestions, because they're centered around controlling somebody else's behavior, as opposed to what's being suggested here is that shifting your own behavior in your own frequency and then allowing what's outside of you to reflect that, as opposed to trying to change someone else or influence them or punish them to get them to behave in the way that you want to. Removing access is more about a boundary for yourself and not a punishment for someone else. It's just realizing that, okay, this person doesn't have the capacity for this, so I'm not going to give them this level of access.
Because they're marketing and playing on the wound. They are selling to the wounded inner child. They're not selling to the conscious, sacred, divine feminine, the woman who knows herself, the woman who seeks to evolve her self concept, the woman who seeks to evolve her limiting beliefs and what is shaping her reality. We are working with women who are stepping into divine femme, who are anchoring back into wholeness, authentic self, who are actually questioning what have I been told and who am I really. That's the work. Um, whereas these things are selling to the wound. Yeah. Oh, I need to be chosen. Oh, I need to control somebody outside of me, that's but when you change, reality rearranges itself outside of you. And it's a metaphysical concept, and it's also true. It's also based in neuroscience. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. And I think that's our time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So as always, we would love you to subscribe, to follow, to share, join the conversation. I'd love to hear what you got to say. Join us in the Divine Femme Collective Facebook group. Loving you loads, and we'll see you next week.